So we're going to be talking about COVID.
Okay.
Well, COVID vaccines, actually. So I'm actually like a good person to talk about this because I am not on any fence or camp when it comes to vaccines. In fact, I hate to say this, I don't take the flu vaccine. I know I've actually come on the show and say that it's a good thing to take it, and it really is. You know, the reason I don't take the flu vaccine is basically that the hospitals try to mandate that you take it, and my response is that, well, some years it's only 10% effective. Why would I take a shot if it's only 10% effective? And so it kind of became a thing for me where I felt like hospitals were robbing people of their autonomy. And so I kind of said, I'm going to take a stand, I'm not going to do this. And I've done that, and I've stuck to it. And I'm very careful. I don't think, to my knowledge, I've never had the flu. So my point in all that is, you know, I'm not this person that's like saying, oh, you know, go take every vaccine that anyone offers because it's the greatest thing ever and there's no risks. You know, I look at each thing and I say, okay, is this effective? Okay. Does it have, you know, low risks? And then I make the decision of, okay, for me, my decision, do I want to take this? You know, I'm against mandates of any sort. You know, I'm very kind of like a libertarian leaning person where I don't want people to be forced to do anything.
Yeah.
But when it came to the COVID vaccine initially, you know, back in 2021, I was actually all on board with it, you know, because one, I kept up with all the COVID stuff because I had to make policy for a hospital for it. And so I had to keep up with all the studies. And so I was following the trials for the COVID vaccine, and I actually read them. I didn't just like look at the sheet. I read the studies that said, you know, the effective rate was like 95%, and there wasn't like any big risk profile. So I was like first in line to take the vaccine. I took the first one, I took the second one, I took a booster, and I know for a fact that it helped me to not get COVID. You know, I had some very, very high risk exposures to COVID. My daughter got COVID like before she could be vaccinated. And I didn't know she had COVID, and she was like literally like right up against me for like 2 days when my wife was gone. I didn't get it. I mean, I know that it like, you know, it was effective for me.
Yeah.
So, of course, with COVID, things have changed so much in the past 2 years. You know, all the new variants came out. Do you guys keep up with this COVID stuff? I mean,
yeah,
a little bit.
I mean, I had to because of like owning a business and like you had to like close the store or like if you had to wear masks and stuff.
Oh yeah, it really affects people, right?
Yeah.
Well, with the COVID, the virus, it's got a lot of new variants now, which is very common for viruses to like mutate and change. And so, you know, you're seeing nowadays the vaccines are not quite as effective as they used to be. I mean, truly, the initial series of the vaccines, at least the Pfizer one, was like 95% effective at preventing transmission. And it's like, oh, that's a no-brainer, right? Like, I mean, why wouldn't you take that? Especially when COVID was like literally, you know, murking people.
Yeah, I just got the first two. I didn't get any of the other stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, back then it was an easy decision. And so, you know, nowadays, like, I'm kind of on the fence about it. You know, I think that, and this isn't the conversation we're about to have, but I mean, when it comes to should you take the vaccine now, I mean, in the past, I think it was a no-brainer. And now I think it's like, well, you know, the effective rate's gone down. It's not 95% anymore. It's somewhere 30, 40, 50%, which is, you know, kind of like what the flu vaccine is. And we have found that there are some risks now. You know, the way that vaccine trials work is when they're trying to vaccine, you know, they'll have like, I think in the initial trial for COVID, it was like 50,000 people, something around that range, okay? You're not going to find every possible thing that can happen in that small of a number. So what they do is they continue studies as the vaccines roll out into the general populace. And so there's two things that I've found, you know, with COVID that are kind of new information. And one is the risk of myocarditis, which is an inflammation of the heart.
Okay.
And the other is a vaccine-induced thrombotic thrombocytopenia, which basically means you start to clot when you shouldn't.
Okay.
Now, these risks are very, very, very low. In fact, both of the risks of those bad outcomes are much, much lower than if you actually got COVID.
Okay.
You know, like say, for example, myocarditis, which, you know, that's not like a nothing problem, but it's not like a fatal problem generally.
Right.
You're much higher risk of getting myocarditis if you actually get COVID versus taking the vaccine for COVID, like by a factor of 10 or something, right? So you can look at those things and be like, okay, there's some minor risks, but, you know, should I not take this? Well, what's happened is I think that a lot of people who were very upset about lockdowns and mask mandates have really kind of made this like force of the vaccine is really, really bad. And I've seen it a lot on social media lately. And so my question for you guys is, have you seen this kind of like blowback on the vaccines that's happening? Or is it not something you've been exposed to?
No, I haven't really. I mean, honestly, I haven't like thought about COVID in a while.
Yeah, that's actually probably the best.
Yeah.
Charles, have you seen any of this stuff?
I've seen a lot of that. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. Even with the past situation that happened with Damar Hamlin.
Yes.
It was
yes.
it was a lot of people, like a lot of sector of people saying that it was because of that. So
the COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
Oh, did he get it, I guess?
Right, yeah, because the NFL, I think the NFL mandates that the players take the vaccine, and so
like
when is it Damar or Lamar?
It's Damar.
Damar, okay. So when Damar had his event, which that was actually very interesting, he had, most physicians agree he had something called commotio cordis, which is where you take a blow to the heart at exactly the wrong time, which puts you into an arrhythmia, which causes your heart to stop beating. Mm-hmm. That is a demonstrated thing. It happens about 20 times a year in the United States.
Yeah.
It's very rare, but it's a very well documented thing.
Right.
Everyone kind of thinks that's what happened to him, and it makes sense. Like, he took a blow to the heart, stood up, passed out. I mean, even though it's rare, that's probably going to be your answer.
Right.
But you're right, Travis. Like, that was one. Like, and now it's like anytime any person on TV or the media has anything happen, there's this group of people that are saying, oh, it's because of the vaccine.
Right.
And what makes it worse is there's a bunch of like healthcare professionals and other people who are playing into that with really, really bad data. And I see it mostly on Twitter, because Twitter's a little bit looser on like what people can, post.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's like a Dr. Richard Fleming, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Pierre Corey, this guy who's not even a doctor named Alex Berenson. Like, these people are actually profiting from pushing like bad information about the vaccines. And what they do is like they, something will happen, they'll make a post about, oh, COVID vaccine's killing this number of people. And they're saying, come to my Substack and get a subscription and learn the truth. Mm-hmm. Or come read my book about, why the COVID vaccine is killing all these people. And so, of course, when all these questions came up, I started like looking into the data. I mean, it's just not there. I mean, I know how to read data. I used to do research studies for years. I would, review research papers to like see like, are they legit or not? Mm-hmm. And the data that these people present is, it's either wrong or just purely fabricated data. And so the reason I wanted to bring it up is what made me kind of like, one, I hate people profiting off misinformation. That just bugs me that somebody says, oh, I'm a doctor, listen to me, but then they push bad information to like make money.
Mm-hmm.
That is just literally the worst of the worst in my opinion. But what really kind of more annoyed me is now you have people that took the vaccine that are like afraid. They're like, oh, well, I took the vaccine, do I need to go?
Yeah, they think they're at risk for something.
Right, they think they're at risk for something that they're not at risk for.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to just like, do a little segment on that. And I'm not like, like I said, I'm not in any camp. I'm not pro-vaccine, I'm not anti-vaccine. What does the science say? What does the literature say on this? And yes, we have found that there are some, things that were not initially known about the vaccine that can happen, but they're very, very, very rare and not causing these problems that all these people are claiming they are.
Right.
I always say, like, if somebody's saying something that's, not mainstream, like, why would they do it? Well, in this instance, they're making money off of it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it kind of bothers me. I just wanted to bring it up. If you're out there, some people won't change their mind. There are people out there that will hear me talk and be like, oh, well, he's like a shill for the pharmaceutical people, or he's getting money. I'm not. I get nothing. I don't care if people take vaccines. I want people to be safe, but like, I'm not going to tell someone to go get a vaccine.
Yeah.
I don't get any money for someone taking a vaccine. And honestly, I probably will not take another booster for COVID, and not because of these risks really, but because of the fact that, one, the COVID variants are not as dangerous.
Yeah.
People are not dying like they used to be from COVID. Two, the efficacy, meaning what your percentage chance of being immune has just gone down and down and down. And so I'm really on the fence. You know, I may or may not take another booster for COVID. So, you know.
Yeah, just seems kind of like unnecessary.
I don't know. I mean, I think for some people, and I want to see more data, like, okay, with these new variants, like, does taking the vaccine mean that sick person will not get as sick and die? I do think that data still holds up, meaning if you have somebody like, you know, my mom, she's 86 years old.
Yeah, like having a pre-existing conditions.
Right. She's high risk if she were to get COVID. So, you know, for her, even though the efficacy rate's much lower, I probably would still tell her it's probably a good idea to get it because any protection is better than none.
Yeah.
None,
Yeah.
right? You know, for me, I'm kind of on the fence about it, but I just